Take a moment and slow yourself down. Breathe in deeply and allow your mind to become still, because what you are about to understand is not something ordinary. It is not a common idea, nor is it something most people ever question in their entire lives. There is a hidden belief shaping your reality every single day, and that belief is about time. You have been taught to believe that your dreams are somewhere ahead of you, that success will come later, that happiness is something you must reach, and that one day everything will finally fall into place. This way of thinking feels natural, yet it quietly keeps you stuck in a cycle of waiting. What if the very reason you are still waiting is because you believe there is something to wait for? Now consider a different perspective. What if everything you are hoping for has already happened? Not in the distant past, not years ago, but just yesterday. Imagine that the breakthrough you have been waiting for already came, that your life already shifted, and that everything you desired has already unfolded. Today is simply the next day, and you are living in the result of it. When you begin to see it this way, something inside you changes. The pressure begins to fade, the urgency disappears, and the constant need to chase slowly dissolves. What is already done does not need effort, and what is complete does not need to be forced. This is the shift that most people never experience, because they spend their lives reaching for something that they continue to place out of reach. But the moment you stop seeing your desires as something ahead of you and start living as if they already happened, everything begins to change. The illusion that keeps you waiting from the very beginning of your life. You were taught to understand time as something fixed and linear. You were told that the past is gone, the present is happening, and the future is something that has yet to arrive. This idea became so deeply embedded in your thinking, but you never stopped to question it. It felt natural, obvious, and completely true. Yet hidden within this belief is a limitation that quietly shapes your entire experience of life. The moment you place anything meaningful into the future, you create a gap between you and that experience. It may seem small at first, almost insignificant, but over time it becomes the very space in which you live. Every time you say that something will happen one day, or that you are still waiting for the right moment, you are reinforcing the idea that it is not here yet. This constant reinforcement builds a pattern in your mind, and that pattern becomes your reality. You begin to operate from a place of lack, without even realizing it. Your thoughts revolve around reaching, your emotions fluctuate between hope and doubt, and your actions carry a subtle sense of urgency. Even when you are moving forward, something within you feels incomplete. This is not because you are doing something wrong, but because your internal state is misaligned with what you desire. Most people try to solve this by working harder, thinking more positively, or forcing themselves to stay motivated. But these efforts often fail to create lasting change because they do not address the root of the issue. The problem is not your effort, it is your perception. As long as you continue to see your desires as something distant, your mind will continue to keep them at a distance. What makes this even more powerful is the way your mind processes reality. Your brain does not rely solely on logical timelines. It responds to emotional intensity, repetition, and belief. This is why a memory can still affect you years later, as if it just happened. It is also why something you imagine vividly can create real emotional and physical responses within you. To your mind, what feels real becomes your truth. This means that the boundary between past, present, and future is not as rigid as you think. It is flexible, shaped by your perception rather than fixed by time itself. Once you begin to understand this, a new possibility opens up. You realize that the key is not to wait for time to bring you what you want, but to shift your perception so that what you want no longer feels distant. When you stop placing your desires in the future and begin to experience them as something already complete, your internal state changes. The feeling of lack begins to fade, and in its place comes a sense of calm certainty. This shift may seem subtle, but it is the foundation of everything that follows. The time collapse method. The time collapse method is built on a simple yet powerful shift in perspective. Instead of viewing your desires as something you are moving toward, you begin to see them as something that has already occurred. This is not about convincing yourself of something unrealistic or forcing a belief that feels unnatural. It is about gently repositioning your experience of reality within your mind. To begin, you must step out of the habit of projecting your desires into the future. Most people are conditioned to think in terms of someday or soon, which automatically creates distance. The time collapse method removes that distance. By placing your desired experience in the past, You assume that it already happened, not years ago, but yesterday. This shift may feel unusual at first because it goes against the way you have always thought. However, if you allow yourself to fully step into it, you will begin to notice a change in your internal state. When you imagine that something happened yesterday, your mind treats it differently than something that might happen in the future. It no longer creates anticipation or longing. Instead, it creates a sense of completion. Take a moment to apply this. Think of something you truly desire, something that feels meaningful to you. Now imagine that it already happened yesterday. The opportunity came, the situation changed, and everything you were waiting for has already unfolded. Today is simply the next day, and you are living in the result of it. As you sit with this perspective, pay attention to how your body and mind respond. The tension that usually comes with wanting begins to dissolve. The need to control the outcome fades away. The constant questioning of how and when becomes irrelevant because those questions only exist when something has not yet happened. What replaces them is a quiet sense of certainty. You begin to feel as though there is nothing to chase and nothing to prove. This state is not forced. It emerges naturally when you allow yourself to experience completion instead of lack. In this state, your thoughts become more stable, your emotions become more balanced, and your actions begin to reflect confidence rather than hesitation. The power of this method lies in its simplicity. You are not trying to change external circumstances directly. Instead, you are changing the way you experience those circumstances internally. As your internal state shifts, your perception changes, and with that change comes a different way of interacting with the world. Over time, this creates a natural alignment between your inner experience and your outer reality. You begin to notice opportunities more easily, make decisions with greater clarity, and respond to situations with a sense of calm confidence. This is not because something outside of you suddenly changed, but because you changed the way you see and experience it. Living from the aftermath, once you begin to practice this method consistently, a deeper transformation starts to take place within you. You no longer find yourself living in a state of anticipation, constantly waiting for something to happen. Instead, you shift into a state of aftermath, where everything you once desired feels as though it has already been completed. This shift changes the way you experience daily life. When you are no longer waiting, you are no longer carrying the tension that comes with uncertainty. The need for constant reassurance fades, and the urge to control every outcome begins to loosen its grip. You start to feel a sense of ease that is not dependent on external validation or immediate results. Living from the aftermath means that your focus is no longer on what is missing, but on what already is. This creates a sense of stability within you, allowing your thoughts and emotions to settle into a more balanced state. You begin to respond to situations with clarity rather than reaction. And your decisions become more intentional rather than impulsive. As this becomes your natural way of being, your identity begins to shift. You are no longer someone who is trying to achieve something, but someone who has already experienced it. This subtle change in identity has a powerful effect on your behavior. You carry yourself differently, communicate differently, and approach challenges with a level of confidence that feels grounded rather than forced. It is important to understand that this shift does not require constant effort. In fact, the more you try to force it, the more resistance you create. Instead, it develops through quiet awareness and consistent practice. You return to the idea that it already happened whenever you notice yourself slipping back into old patterns of thinking. Another key aspect of this stage is maintaining a sense of the privacy. There is no need to explain your process to others or seek validation for what you are doing. The more you protect this internal shift, the stronger it becomes. Just like something that has already happened does not need to be announced, this state does not require external confirmation. Over time, you will begin to notice changes in your external environment. These changes may start subtly, appearing as small shifts in opportunities, interactions, or circumstances. As you continue to live from this state, those changes become more noticeable and more consistent. This is not because you are forcing reality to change, but because your alignment with it has deepened. Living from the aftermath is ultimately about trust. It is about allowing yourself to rest in the feeling that what you desire is already part of your experience. From this place, life begins to unfold in a way that feels natural, steady, and aligned with who you have become. In the end, this is not about changing time, but about changing your relationship with it. The moment you stop chasing the future and begin to embody a sense of completion, you remove the distance between yourself and what you desire. Whenever you feel stuck or uncertain, pause and take a breath. Remind yourself that what you are looking for has already happened. Let that thought settle within you and allow it to shift your state. As your state changes, your experience of life begins to change with it. Your life does not transform because time passes. It transforms because you change the way you perceive it. And sometimes the most powerful step forward is not moving ahead, but realizing that you have already arrived.